It's finally time to start firing up the grill. From city to shore, Acme is everything you need to prep for this summer season. Download the Acme app to shop for this season's essentials any way you want. Open the Acme app, clip your deals, then order your items online. An experienced Acme associate will carefully select your groceries, bag your order, and bring it right to your car or deliver right to your door. Download the app or visit acmemarkets.com for program details.
Hi there, I am Adam Kirvas. We are here in Ordu, Turkey, a small town in the Black Sea region. I'm here in my hometown and in my parents' home. We are still in the pandemic and we're still talking about hate. Today will be the final episode on hate. This does not mean that I think that we have reached our goal. Not at all. Hate is indeed a very interesting emotion and it deserves a lot of attention. However, but today I think we will make a break of philosophical inquiries. I announced that I want to try something out, especially audio books with a new approach on how to record novels, fiction in a way. I do everything with my phone. I don't have a laptop. So, however, I always wanted to make audio books, and this will be one chance. I have enough space on podcast, so sufficient enough to make this attempt. However, but we will. I still wanna inquire emotions, and I always, and we talked about this desire. Desire is one of those very interesting emotions, especially with the LGBTQ community, and of course as well as hate, because we are in a society, we are in with a lot of racism, with a lot of hate. I would not say racism is of course something which needs a special consideration. Nevertheless, so hate is a very powerful emotion. Hate is one of those things we still live, and of course, I will use this episode as well as partially as a summary as well. So we went through those episodes, or through those explanations, especially with hate as being subjective. We talked about this. If you prefer the psychoanalysis term, then we came up with worked through definitions which we found on Google and Merriam-Webster, and now here we are, and we talked about the last time about antagonism. And of course, as well as fear, this is something we have to add up it, because if you being socially outcast, this is one of the driving forces. If you are social outcast, if you cannot compete in a society for resources which are considered as valuable, and that the gathering and garnering of those resources are considered as well worthy, as well as are telling about you. If, of course, in our society, no matter in which fringe you live, whether you are in the center or just in the periphery, you want to be successful, you want to accomplish something. But of course, this is something we have to, this is something we only want to talk about briefly, but there is some sort of a feeling and emotion inside you to create something. This is, you would assume, some sort of mysterious feeling, emotion. Freud some sort of gave it some mysterious connotation with creating something, survival and so on, but you have in yourself an innate desire, or partially desire, to create something, and especially something that lasts, because this is what funerals are for, this is what gravestones are for, because your loved ones will remember you eventually. Those gravestones, they are rather for eternity, for further generations, or for future generations who might know that one day some person existed. Of course, this person then exists in a way through the narration and stories of other people. However, especially if you lose a lost one or a loved one, if you lose a person in your family, then of course you want something that outlasts. However, so this is indeed something which we humans aspire to, and or if you want a legacy is the more better when you accomplish something successfully. We briefly talked about parents considering their children as an extension of themselves. So what they do not accomplish, they want their children to accomplish, and so on and so forth. Of course, then we talked about one important issue, and this is what is happening actually when you are excluded from this. And this is of course something which is fearful as well, because you are part of, or in a way you are considered as an outcast. You consider, or you create a counter culture or in a way invert all those values to make it very positive, especially those body positive pics, or those philosophy approach, how you want to see it. This is an inversion of values. So obesity is not bad anymore. It makes you more human, more hard, or it is rather about makes you more nice, if you want more human, down to earth, the girl next door, the boy next door, understanding, not superficial, not shallow. But however, this always comes with a fear that you are not being accepted, that you are some sort of outcast, or that you live in the periphery of a society, because this is something you have. So this means that you have always in your culture an ambiguity. This is especially if you are a migrant. This is I know this as a Turkish migrant. I mean, you always see yourself through the eyes of the host society. I grew up in a society which has, at least those whom I met, those people whom I met, had mostly only derision to Middle Eastern culture. They thought Middle Eastern culture is inferior, whatever it is. And then, of course, but the explanation is that the Middle Eastern culture is inferior because the Middle Eastern people are inferior genetically, and so on. So this is the argumentation. This is what I always encountered, and this, of course, leads to you a perception of yourself. This is something you do not swipe away. This is part of your identity. It is part of your ambiguous identity, and of course you fear being this dumb Middle Eastern man. You fear that you some sort of fulfill people's prejudices, and that you then some sort of never get appreciation for your wits, for what you have accomplished, and so on. So no matter what you do, even though if you invert your values, for example, even though if you put yourself on a more moral pedestal, there are of course always temptations. I mean, we have to be aware of one thing. I mean, temptations, or only an object becomes a temptation if you try with force whatever you have to bar yourself from it. However, but if you put yourself on a moral pedestal, like you want to be a righteous Muslim, whatever, and this would then mean that you must not eat pork, that you must not drink alcohol, or that you behave in a way sent, because this is what you say, or this is what we in Austria, among the Middle Eastern community, in a way always told ourselves that we would be decent, honorable, and so on, and we would not lie, cheat. But of course, this puts a lot of high standards on you, and this is indeed very difficult to sometimes accomplish these. And then you, of course, have a fear that you do not accomplish, or that you are not pious enough in order to get recognition, because this is what we talked about as well. I mean, you are still competing for resources, and one of the resources in society is acknowledgement. This is what you get in social media. So despite the fact social media is a virtual reality, nevertheless it is interconnected with society. So those mechanisms which you have in society or on social media, these you will find in society as well, because otherwise it would not work. Otherwise, Instagram would be the name of a online video game, whatever. So it has a connection to real life, and but with the difference that on social media you get very fast recognition, whereas on real life, for example, if you live in rural area, there it is. I mean, of course, you have to be aware of one thing, that there are a lot of mechanisms, especially if you live in a human community where everyone knows each other. I mean, you cannot just recognize everyone for his or her accomplishment, because there are a lot of mechanisms. There's a lot of envy, especially if you know someone. I mean, it is easier to acknowledge and recognize someone's accomplishments whom you do not know than someone with whom you probably even grew up with, and of whom you assume he's not smarter than you, or whatever, or someone with whom you grew up with and you then detest because for something happened in your childhood with this person, or this was the dumb boy or girl you grew up with, and everyone thought he or she's an idiot, and then it turns out it's not the case, and you still cannot really believe it. However, but there is a lot of mechanism goes on, and this has, of course, something valuable, and then of course you fear that you being some sort of outcast, or if you want women. I mean, if you are this is still in our society very common. If you are a woman who seeks sexual pleasure with many men, and I don't mean cheating, I really mean sexual pleasure in normal relationships without cheating. However, this has been frowned on, or at least you will be considered as a whore. So this is indeed a very big issue, and of course you don't want to be outcast. You don't want to be derived of these social interactions which you might need. I mean, this is not very nice, and I know this from my own experiences, especially in the university. I mean, if you are being out, or if you are an outcast for whatever reason, I mean, in my case, this was point blank racism. I mean, if you are being outcasted there, then this is really nasty. I mean, if you sit in those classrooms, people talk literally not behind your back anymore. They just talk past you. This is pretty much nasty. I even sat in a classroom where people in front of me were discussing how and when they should kill me. I mean, this is indeed very hideous. I mean, one reason, I mean, I have talked about it over and over again, my deep hate and this disdain for the Austrian culture, for everything that's Austrian. I mean, it would not be of use if we would talk about this over and over again, but this is indeed a fact. So this can be pretty much nasty. However, but if we want to stay with this, I mean, this is of course, if you see this in the rap videos, I talked about rap videos because I think rap videos, especially with hip hop and so on, after they in a way are the front runners of a subculture, of a counter culture which has inverted the values. So as a fuck or gangster, you are not considered despicable anymore as it would be considered in a society by white people, but rather you are again laborers. You have accomplished something. You are tough, you are manly, you did not grow up in privileges, and yet you still made it work, and yet you have accomplished anything. And then, of course, you have always the fear that you do not accomplish something, that you fall short, and this then if you want, but then you cannot accomplish anything or cannot accomplish those goals you set yourself, especially if those goals are plain. I mean, you cannot just dream of being a millionaire. I mean, where does this lead you? You have to have at least an idea of which you are follow through, and then believe me, passion alone is not enough. This has to go beyond passion, because if you are passionate about something, then you will gather information about it in order to do it better. For example, if you are a carpenter and if you are passionate about carpenter, this of course you will be some sort of more able and capable, but however you still need to get those resources. You will or should dedicate some of your time to learn more about carpentry and so on, and you will, if you're really are passionate about, because some informations you always have to gather. Of course, you may be a natural talent, but however, you still need to gather information. However, and then you fall short. I mean, you cannot accomplish these things. I mean, what has been promised in those rap videos, I mean, that you have to be manly, that you have to be fearless. I don't know what this means, but as far as me concerned, you should be fearful, because being fearful prevents you from making stupid mistakes, or being fearful makes you cautious and you think about issues more than once, so twice or three times, and then you see some problems which then can save or maybe save your life. So being fearful is indeed positive, and you will survive if you are fearful, especially cautious if you're cautious. However, but in a tough world, you don't want to show fear, or in a tough world, I mean, eventually you want to be recognized as being tough. This is the value. This is the value of a society, and then it happens that one of you or one of your family members has came out gay, has came out as a transsexual, because in our society we all are, especially in our generation, we are all fixated with genetics, and then everyone assumes the entire gene pool is some sort of rotten, debauched, whatever. And I mean, this is what people thought about me as well, because my older brother was transsexual. They immediately assumed that I would be gay as well. So I mean, this was again something very hideous, and I narrowly escaped being raped, and not once but many times. So this was close one, every time very close, and again very nasty. However, but then of course then you this bars you then from being accomplished, and then this is where the pathway to hate grows, because hate, this antagonism, us versus them, it only works if you think that you are at least equal or are better off, but then if you cannot accomplish it for that reason, this is what hate grows. This is when you hate the other hand. This is when you then go over to dislike the existence of the other. This is something you then consider some sort of a competition competition again, us versus them, and you do not hate the system, because this system we talked about still gives you meaning, still gives you purpose. You say that the others have an overedge, you say that the others have in a way still advantages, the others have privileges, or if the others in a way this is happening partially with cultural appropriation. If you think that some white people dress up as as they would be from the hood or whatever, that this would be insulting. Well, it is indeed very difficult, because the hood culture in a way is a counter culture to the mainstream culture, but however has still the same values of the mainstream culture. So or who is taking over what and why? And this is something you would have to ask yourself as well. And then of course you see this partially in the Black Lives Matter movement as well. So when you're barred from this success, when you just not accomplish something, even though your outrage is reasonable, this is what we talked about as well. I mean, this is indeed reasonable. At least those people who are genuinely interested in the improvement of their lives. But again, there are some people among them, and this is something which we have to address, and this is what I saw in Austria as well. Some people who just don't care about any agenda. They just want to destroy things. They just want to smash cars. They just want to destroy people. Some of them need psychological help, because you could see, at least I detected, some of them, they had some parental issues, and they in a way assumed that this home, whatever this is, because they would some sort of associate the state, the police, with a father or with a mother, with one of their parents from whom they did not get enough love. However, and it is always easier to destroy something than create something, but because in the end, if you only seek attention, and if you want to seek fast attention, especially on social media, because in social media, if you can get attention on the tip of your finger, and if you want to get fast attention, then the fastest way is to destroy something. This is easier, fast done. Destroy your car and or film while you destroy your car and post it on YouTube or Instagram, and you will see you will have a lot of followers, especially when you mix it up with a good music. However, and this is what you see in that well as also, but again, and then in this antagonism, which was some sort of sadistic pleasure, or in a way you put yourself in it, and then the gap widens. I mean, then you cannot accomplish things. However, what we want to talk about is as well, I mean, this might be now every Marxist who made an assume, the system is the problem, whatever. I mean, we talked about this as well. I mean, there is of course a lot of literature about recognition as well. I mean, in especially in German culture, in the Frankfurter Schule. This is a German school of thought founded by Theodor Adorno, who was I don't know what he was. I mean, he was a Marxist, but he some sort of was an Hegelian. He was elitarian. Theodor Adorno thought that if you only think about something, then you would come up to a solution. So everything can be solved with people thinking about it. So in this world view, there would be no place for war. However, I mean, this Frankfurt school of thought is very prominent in Germany, and there is one thought strand. This is Anerkennung, which was very promoted by Axel Honneth. He was a he is part of this Frankfurt School of Thought. I mean, I would not assume. I mean, I don't want to chide anyone's accomplishments, but I do. It is not really a good thought and approach. I mean, I worked with it for a couple of time, but then it has some issues. Maybe we will talk about it in Desire. Yeah, maybe. So, but in a way, in that sense, recognition. This is true. This is something genuinely human. You need, in a way or another, recognition for your being, for your existence, for what you have accomplished. This may, in our society, in a capitalistic society, this may be about money. But don't forget, if you have read Max Weber, which I would really recommend everyone to do, Max Weber's. Again, I should really look that up how this book is called in English, but it is about Protestantism, the Protestantic ethic, and the spirit of capitalism. This is my free translation. However, this is very interesting, and there you see, I mean, this is some sort of, in a way, you assume recognition. I mean, you assume that you are the chosen one, because if you already start doubting that you would not be the chosen one, the one God loves, then you have already lost, and then you cannot be the chosen one. So either way, you don't wanna doubt that you are the chosen one. And then, of course, this is what we talked about as well. I mean, after the militaristic gender, so when the military, especially in Europe after the Second World War, was pretty much falling, this grace in Germany, because of these atrocities, what was committed by the Wehrmacht, and there's still some research in Germany as well as in Austria, which will try to investigate into atrocities of the Wehrmacht during the Second World War, especially on the Eastern Front, and as well as in France, where the French military was pretty much humiliated by the German military. And so, in general, in Western Europe, the military lost prestige, it lost praise, and thereafter, more and more, you could see that this, in a way, this business gender took over, and you want to be laborers, you want to accomplish something, you want to be the man. This is what you seek recognition for, and in that sense, you have to separate money from recognition, because recognition is something you can gain without money as well. And in every communistic society, if you assume that you have to do away with capitalism, in every society you have to recognize someone, firstly as a human being, secondly as well as for his accomplishments. So no one is the same. Some people put in more effort than others. This cannot be the same. It shouldn't be the same, because it is hard work, like I said, getting up every day and going to work, or even sitting your ass down and write something, whatever you have it. It is not easy work. This is sometimes grueling, sometimes, or mostly it always comes with self-doubts, whether it is good or bad. However, there is indeed a difference to those people who do not accomplish anything. This is what I saw in the university as well. I mean, some people, they just did not care, and they were just passed through because they were some affiliates, because they would belong to the same party as other peoples as well. So this is something which is not advisable. And again, this is what destroys a society. This is the reason what is wrong, or what is working wrong in capitalism. This is the reason why there are monopolies and so on, because this is the reason why the economy is orchestrated only by a handful of people, and they always make sure that no one comes in to their ranks, or they bar any out outsider from coming too close. So this is something despicable, and this is happening within the leftist philosophy as well. So the left in that sense is no exception. At least the Austrian and German left. These are the people what I saw. However, and we are talk about hate. Let's stay there. And this is what we said here. This is antagonism. You cannot accomplish success. We talked about in gender. You are the man. You have to, or you still in a way operate and think in those terms of your parents and grandparents, because your social circumstances do not give you an alternative. For example, if you're a normal worker, if you're a normal skilled or unskilled worker, then you have only your work to show for it, and you can mostly only get recognition or acknowledgement through your work, through what you have accomplished as a carpenter. You build a desk, a chair, whatever. This is what you get recognition for your craftsmanship, but then you cannot some sort of show your ability as well as your value, because this is what it is. So you cannot be the head of the family. You cannot be recognized as the man who can take care of his wife, because this is still very actual in some areas in society. As a man, this is a demand. So this is not something you choose. There is still some sort of a demand that you should take care of your wife, and then or that of your family, that you are the sole breadwinner. And this means that you are laborers. This does not mean that you're chauvinistic or whatever, or the left, or some feminist women. They always assume, this is what men choose because they want to be some sort of served by women. They like that women should be subordinated, and they seek family life. Not at all. This is always, which is demanded from me. This is your place. Again, I say this over and over again. If you go to university, if you have some sort of knowledge to show off, if you sit in a conversation with a beautiful girl and you can talk about, I don't know, if you can talk about Aristotle, about philosophy, if you can talk about, I don't know, Jane Austen, about literature, about what people assume, what smart people talk about. I don't know what they do, assumably about mathematics. I don't know. However, this is, then you have something to show off. But again, as a carpenter, things are different, or as an unskilled worker. Or if people, especially in the millennial age, everyone talks about traveling. Everyone talks about, I went there, I saw that, and the only thing you can talk about is that you went to Turkey every year and spent time in the house your parents built for their retirement. So this is indeed very difficult, and of course then you cannot fulfill this. Your purpose, because you always seek something purpose, and this was when I was a carpenter as well. There were of course people, especially those who went to universities, were considered as smart, as in a way better than us, but nevertheless we always said to us, this is what you could always see and hear among those people who among carpenters, and that was that they may go to the university, but we are more manly. We know how to build things. One very famous example is, as always, that an intellectual, studious man is incapable of hanging up a picture on the wall or whatever, or putting a nail in the wall. So these are things what people talk about as well. So and then of course through rationalization, through modernization, you are more and more pushed out of your sphere. You are more and more, you cannot fulfill this manliness, and then of course you hate this system. But first and foremost, you hate those people whom you think they have an overage advantage of you. This is the fear. This is the fear that speaks about you. This is the fear which then becomes apparent, and you cannot avoid it anymore because you are then put in the situation where you stand face to face, and then you would have to fear your see and are your inferiority, and you cannot do something about it. So the fear that this counter culture or the values of your counter culture then become meaningless. I mean, this is in the carpentry. I mean, if you are being get rid of, or if you are being rationalized away by an engine or by a machine, by an automat, so that you become exchangeable, interchangeable. It is understandable. You get frustrated. You get understandable that those people of the other side of the spectrum, that they do not know what life is. I mean, because they don't understand what it means that your pride, your manliness is insulted. Because why? Because that's the only way you got recognition for. That's the only way you could be some sort of a man. That's the only way your world was still in shape, whatever you have it. This is as well as with this body positive. I mean, this is very heavy and severe. I mean, if you see some people, this was now things have in a way changed, but back in the days, if people, this was partially before the social media really took off. I mean, if you would see someone obese or somewhere, people would immediately chide them, attack this person, because this person was assumed as lazy, as fat, as this pickable, as unhealthy. And now, so this is as well as very severe. And then this counter culture then helps you in a way, some sort of maintain a body positive appearance, maintain a world which is still fine. But then, of course, you always have the fear of not being accepted. And then when this stops, when people stop accepting you for being obese, then you always then you are put back and put in this situation where you cannot avoid this insufficiency anymore. So where you are then have to face that you are still an outcast or whatever. Or if you want, if you are a migrant, this happened to me. If you are a migrant and if you grow up in the notion that no matter what you do, or that those people who are uneducated, that they will always be racists. But once you go to university, once you surround yourself with intellectually sophisticated people, things would change. So people would not notice that you are a foreigner, or that you being a foreigner would not be an issue. But then you discover and see in the university with your own eyes what this happens. I mean, that this is not true. Things get even worse, really nasty. So people in the university, they're indeed very vicious. They don't have any decency. I mean, at least not in Austria. This is what I experienced. However, and then you get shocked, and you some sort of stand in front of the shatters of an illusion, and then this of course there was always this fear. I mean, this is what you had always in the university, with those interactions with everyone. I mean, you while you as a migrant always interact with people, of course you always have this fear that someone calls you out as a dumb Turk, as a stupid Middle Eastern idiot, as a moron. Or I always feared, or my biggest fear always was that when I go to the university, people would ask me, "What are you doing here? You are wrong here. You are too stupid for university," and so on. I mean, this was the fear you always have, and then these things happen. I mean, and then they really happen. You do not believe it, and then you stand there. You are put in this situation. You cannot do it any for these people. They do not take you seriously. They make fun of you, or even worse, talk about how to get rid of you, and you have to listen to that, and you don't know how to avoid it. I mean, this was indeed racist. I mean, how can you deal with racism? I mean, if you are attacked from all sides, and this is indeed devastating because you cannot change anything. And there, right there, this is not all about money. This is as well as about recognition, especially as a human being. I mean, this is especially if you are a victim of racism, if you have always been some sort of marginalized, not only marginalized but as well as hated for being a foreigner, for being inferior, for being dumb, for being too stupid, or whatever, or that you would have all a bad body odors, for example, a common prejudice against Middle Eastern in Austria as well as in Germany is that Middle Eastern people would smell after garlic. I mean, I don't know what, however, this is what many people say, and that Austrian men would not hang out with Middle Eastern women because they would smell of garlic. Their vaginas would smell of garlic, that they would be filthy, and Austrian women as well as Austrian as well as German women do not like Middle Eastern men because they smell, they are disgusting. They don't wash themselves and they smell of garlic. This is what people say to you, and this is of course embarrassing, devastating, these prejudices. And then if you find them, if you really find them in the university, and even it goes even more nasty and in a way more hideous, especially by people who should have known better, especially by leftists, by feminists, what have you. I mean, this is what you're shocked. This is what you are then being thrown back into the stand. This is the fear which then has overcome to you, and this is the antagonism which you cannot change anymore, because then you are barred from any acknowledgement or as a human being or whatever. I mean, this is not very easy, of course. I mean, this is devastating if you are not even considered a human being, and people try everything, and this is what they did in Austria as well, and you could not do anything against it. I mean, everyone who wanted to do or wants to do anything against you was allowed and was even encouraged to do that. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I always feel deep satisfaction for every Austrian and German who dies in this pandemic, because there's still hatred against these people. This is what it is. I mean, this is what the dislike of the existence of some people is. I mean, I would not harm anything or anyone, but if the virus, if this virus gets Austrians or Germans, well, I'm fine with it. I mean, I find this in a way justice, because it is not likely that Austria as well as Germany will be forced to pay restitution for the cause of the damage this pandemic has caused. However, I mean, there is a lot of hatred against it because you are not considered as human being anymore. This is not about love. I mean, this is love is something you demand or want on a subjective basis. Of course, you want to be liked, especially by attractive women, if you're a man, or heterosexual man, or whatever. If you're a woman, of course you want to be seen as attractive, but here this is about being recognized as a human being, and of course having the same abilities, having the same possibilities like anyone else. And this is then what leads to hate, because you cannot accomplish it anymore, you cannot buy it anymore, and then you still assume that the system is right, but only that some people take more out than they deserve to. This is the problem, partially the problem of it. I mean, this is we will. I mean, hate is indeed definition. I mean, this is what we still need, some sort of a definition, and hate in that sense would mean that this is the antagonism. Hate is the antagonism of two opposite sides, or let's, because in that sense hate would be the unfulfilled desire of an antagonistic or society, or a perceived antagonistic society where others, either in real or fictitiously, are better off than you, which then leads to you hating the existence of this other. So this was Adam gave us from Urdu here in the pandemic on this July day. I hope that you all are doing fine, and bye.
It's finally time to start firing up the grill. From city to shore, Acme is everything you need to prep for this summer season. Download the Acme app to shop for this season's essentials any way you want. Open the Acme app, clip your deals, then order your items online. An experienced Acme associate will carefully select your groceries, bag your order, and bring it right to your car or deliver right to your door. Download the app or visit acmemarkets.com for program details.